Okay, hello and welcome to this video. I'm Andrew Joseph Keith. I'm an artist and sculptor, but in this video I'm going to be doing some drawings, just some studies based on one of my favorite books for figurative artists, which is Bridgman's Complete Guide to Drawing from Life. He's got a lot of good things. We're going to be talking about some of his ways of approaching the figure and just doing some studies. I just have my sketchbook here. Here you can see where some of the kids have been playing in my sketchbook. These are some sketches that I did yesterday, so we're going to be doing something similar to this kind of study sketches of the figure. Before we get into the actual drawings, I guess I could show you some of the sketches that I've done in the past, because I always like seeing other people's sketchbooks. Just some fun stuff with the kids. As you can see, I'm not taking the sketchbook too seriously. Some of them are a little bit more developed, like these, but some are just quick studies, more to get an understanding of like the hands or anatomy. And I do recommend having a sketchbook and using a sketchbook. It's just a good skill for any artist to have, to be able to draw out a concept or an idea or anatomy study. Those things are very useful to be able to do as an artist, and sculpting is really just drawing in space. So I'm kind of approaching this study from a sculpting perspective as a sculptor, but you can also take lessons from sculpting and apply it to drawing. So whether you're interested in drawing or sculpture, this video should be hopefully helpful for you guys and informative. Now, one of the reasons that I love this book so much, and you can get this book for fairly inexpensive. I think I got this on eBay, and so it's not an expensive book, but I think one of the best that you can find for anybody interested in figurative representation. And I think there's a reason. I'm going to zoom into some of these sketches, and I think there's a reason that artists tend to gravitate towards doing George Bridgman studies as they're beginning their artist journey, or even later on, just somebody that wants to understand a part of the body. There's something about these Bridgman drawings that that just conveys a level of understanding that is rare among artists, and that's why I think it's one of my favorite books. Also, he has a very structural, very sculptorally way of approaching the figure. Here you can see in these blocks that he likes to turn areas into boxes, into like cubes, and plays with these box-like forms, almost as if they're pieces of clay. And I can really relate that into 3 dimensions quite easily. Here you can see another example of that. It just makes it very easy to understand these forms in 3D, even though these are drawings on a 2-dimensional page. And so that's one of the things that I really like about his approach to the figure. Another thing is that he doesn't minimize the gesture. He really pushes the gesture. Here you can see, these gesture lines, these curves in the figures. So while he has a very sculptorally way of approaching everything, he doesn't lose that gesture, that push and pull of the gesture that makes the figure so interesting, and especially like contrapposto poses. Here you can see that contrapposto, shoulders going one way, hips going the other way. So just a great resource if you're looking for an art book, and one that's not super expensive but that has a lot of information. Then I'd definitely check out George Bridgman's Complete Guide to Drawing from Life. So let's see what kind of studies we want to do. Today. I'm just gonna kind of flip through and grab something. Let's see if something kind of pulls my interest. Hands are tricky. I just did a hand sculpting course. And yeah, let's maybe do something with the hands, because the hands are tricky and it's a difficult area of the body. So a good thing to practice, and we'll see if I can't just kind of soak in some of the knowledge that he has. So let's do this. This finger study. He walks you through kind of his layering of the anatomy on top of the finger. And so let's see if we can't gain something from these sketches right here. Let me zoom out a little bit. There we go. And try to get it so that we can kind of see what's going on. Without being too lost. Okay, so I'm just gonna start. You know, because I'm using a pen, I don't want to be erasing a lot. So sometimes just drawing in some rough guidelines ahead of time can help. So I'm just gonna draw some boxes and cut them in half. And I know that when you break down the finger, if you take this distance and cut it in half, that's just about where the next knuckle is. Cut that distance in half, that's about where the other one is. It's a little bit different than that, but these boxes just give me an idea so that I'm not just guessing with some of these forms that I'm laying in place. So let's see, can you even see? Let me zoom in a little bit more. So you hopefully can see what I'm doing. And maybe I'll just exaggerate these gesture lines a little bit more than I would. Usually you want to draw nice and light on these, but just so you guys can see what I'm doing, what I'm thinking about. So the first, and he gives some separation in between these, but the first is this first phalanx of the joints. And I'm really just looking at his, like the ins and out, the in and out areas where it starts to get wider and where it starts to narrow, and then I'm laying in with as much as I can with straight lines kind of the silhouette of these forms. Now, something that he's picking up on and that I might exaggerate just a little bit is that the knuckles kind of start wide and then thin out as they get to the front. And then this is the back of the knuckle, and there's something that I'm going to actually exaggerate a little bit because it's something that I've noticed as a sculptor, is that the back of the knuckle is like wheels. So if you imagine two wheels, but they open towards as they move down towards the bottom. So it's wider. These wheels are like tilted outwards. So if this is the back of the knuckle, and then these wheels kind of open towards the front of the knuckle. Let's see if I can help give that visualization. So does that visual make sense? That it's actually wheels on the knuckle that are rotated. They're not parallel with one another. They're kind of at an angle. And so I'm trying to give an indication of that with these lines right here, that those wheels are kind of opening up towards that back side of the knuckle. And he kind of gives some idea of, you know, some of the forms turning around here. He'll say, and then the next one kind of fits inside that first shape, then also narrows as it gets smaller. And it's like a puzzle piece, you know, these puzzle pieces that fit inside of each other nicely, that are designed that way so that they will fit inside of each other. And that kind of same thing with those wheels that turn outwards. And then the last phalanx, or the last joint, is a little bit different because it kind of comes to almost like an arrow pointing forward. I'm just going to kind of simplify this. And in this one, I'm not doing a great job of mimicking kind of the line work and everything that seems to really inform his work. I'm just going for straights, which makes it a little bit easier for me to copy things. And then let's go ahead. He breaks it down into different steps, but I'm going to go ahead and just layer on top of this some of the other anatomy that he's showing. And so he's mentioning that there are some tendons that come around and kind of envelop that knuckle. So those kind of wrap around and give some thickness to the knuckle on either side. And same thing on this side. There's those tendons wrapping around. And this one is, I'm going to pull this one forward because it's a little bit more of a thin arrow. And then same thing down here, pulling out those kind of that tendinous area. And there's actually I'm going to draw this over top. There's a tendon that kind of splits and then goes on either side of these. So that's coming over the top and then splitting. Boom. And that goes around and then attaches over here on this side. And then he kind of gives an indication on this last one of what's happening with the more of fleshy parts, that the finger itself has kind of this arrow tip shape to it that the tip of the finger does. And then he's drawing those, exaggerating those forms there, that anatomy. And so, that's not a very good drawing, but what I'm trying to do is just kind of take the knowledge that's accumulated in these strokes and then just try to absorb just a little bit of it. So, the drawings typically are not going to be as well done, as the master. But with each drawing, you might take a little bit of a lesson. Like you might think like, oh yeah, the tip of the finger is kind of, in a way, this kind of arrow shape that's a little bit thinner, and then maybe it bows outward. And you may look for that, like that shape for the tip of the finger. That may become more obvious to you in the future as you're observing the reference. So let's go ahead, let's go to a different part. Let's see, maybe something with the full figure. Okay, yeah, let's maybe do something like this. We're gonna move over and okay, in this one I'm going to again give myself some gesture lines. The legs kind of coming out this way. This one's coming out this way. I'm thinking about the armature, like a wire armature that's making up the figure. Going to move the hips up maybe just a little bit more. There's maybe a box of the pelvis right here, and then the rib cage up here. Just something very simple to give me some indication of where joints are going to be in things. And let's see, so the leg, this leg's kind of coming forward. The foot is going to be right there. So it's going to be a little bit foreshortened. The calf on this side is going to be foreshortened just a little bit. So I want to get that. And then, okay, and then once we have kind of a basic form, then we're going to come in and start to just try to absorb or understand some of these lines that he's drawn in. Let's see, the shoulders. coming around the deltoid or shoulder. And just the way he simplifies it, you know, the lines are they're so simple, but they convey so much information, and it just feels accurate. You can just tell that he understands like what's happening. He kind of gives some rounded lines to represent what's happening with the abdomen. And then he's going to kind of come around here. Gives quite a wide area for the hips, and then there's the muscles of the obliques. Let's add those on either side. And this kind of is stretching over here on this side, but he gives just a hint of what's happening with the glutes behind. And then he layers that with the front, with the muscles of the upper leg. And then he's also showing with the sketch work, with the line work, you know, those different forms. So he separates out the form of this inside mass with the outside, the massive muscle on this inner part of the leg with the outside. And he does it so masterfully, so beautifully. And we're just trying to mimic that, copy just a little bit to inform our work in the future. Because these sketches, you know, they're just practice, and they're just something to get us thinking about, like, what is he seeing that we're typically missing that makes his drawing so much more interesting, so much more knowledgeable than what we are doing. And he'll have a form coming out for the calf. Man. Okay, let's just keep going. I really am not liking my drawing. Some days, you know, you feel like you're on, like your drawings they just kind of come together, and then some days they're not. I'm not liking these too much, but worst case scenario, I just delete the video, you know. Nobody ever knows. It's like, who was it? There was some artist that it's a story that he just had all of his student work burned or destroyed, because he said if people knew how hard I worked to get as good as I am, they wouldn't be impressed. What is that, Michelangelo or somebody? Or that's a story about him. I don't know if it's true, but it's something that I've heard. You can see that even in the line work, he gives like an idea of what's happening with the bones underneath, which is just so helpful, so fascinating. It's like this hyper anatomical feel to it. He's got the belly button, and he gives this So we'll call these the warm-up drawings. I'm not liking this, so I'm just going to move on. We have a pen, so we're not erasing. Otherwise, I might erase all that and start over. But let's see if we can't find something else to give us some more information. Let's try this one. So this one, I'm not going to do the sketch lines ahead of time. I'm just going to kind of try to draw the forms as I see them. and we'll see if we do better. And I'm also going to kind of loosen up a little bit. So we got this neck coming in, kind of the form there, shoulders coming up. We have the torso, or the ribs, going this way. Let's see. And he says there's this shoulder that's coming out. Something like that. And then it dips down. A bump for the oblique. And then a bump for the widest part, the greater trochanter of the leg, which is this, the widest part of the hips, right near where the groin is on the other side. Let's see, I'm making this too thick, so let's thin this out on this side. And then this leg is coming down, bending down. Back here, this leg is coming, something like that. And he's saying that there's the inside muscles, there's this outside part of the leg, and he's pushing the gesture more than I am. I can feel that I'm not pushing the gesture enough to get that feeling that he's getting in his drawing. And he's saying with the shading, he's saying that this is going in on the back side, and this is heading back. And I like how he does that with the shading strokes. Boom. And then the foot coming down. Boom. Just so energetic. And when he does it, he puts the lines in the right place, which is a good skill to have for a draftsman. When I do it, I prefer putting the lines in the wrong place. Boom. Let's see. Let's do some of these. I like these, so we're just going to start with that kind of first one. We're going to push the gesture this way, then this way it comes. And it's coming that way. He's got the arms that are wrapping up around here, and they're coming to the hips, coming out this way, pushing everything back. And this leg is curving around. And you see that that separation he always gives for that inside part of the thigh and the outside part. Boom. And I'm just trying to mimic some of these lines and some of the information that I'm seeing. So interesting. I'm just going to try to loosen up because I feel like the way I'm working is a little bit too stiff and doesn't have the liveliness that he's showing. Just look at that. He just has that foot just shoot across. And he kind of comes in with that foot. He says that there's gives a few lines to say that here's the forms of the chest, the breasts, and the belly coming this way. Something like that. The shoulder kind of tucks out and then goes back in, swooping. Just incredible. So even though I'm not able to exactly mimic his style, I feel like every drawing just gives me a little bit more knowledge about the figure. That's why I really love doing these master studies. And you can see, everybody does these studies of Bridgman. It's just what you do if you're interested in the figure and drawing. Then you just do Bridgman master studies at some point. You just have to. And people have said, like, do you have to be good at drawing in order to sculpt? I'd say no, but it helps. Sculpting is just drawing in space. You're just drawing in 3 dimensions. And a lot of the times you're just trying to pick up, a silhouette from one angle and then change the sculpture and pick it up from another angle. So there's a lot of drawing that's involved. So getting better at drawing will help you get better at sculpting. But, they are 2 different skills. It's 2 different forms of representing the figure, but they help each other. So if you sculpt, that'll help your drawings because you'll understand how the form exists in 3D, which will help with your shading and with your representing of the form and inventing. That'll help if you understand, this is how the muscles kind of wrap around the figure. And that's a really hard thing to understand when you're just drawing. I mean, you can do drawings of slowly turning the figure and, drawing the muscle from each angle. But people rarely do that. People rarely do a study where they draw the form as it's turning in space, because that takes a lot of work. It's a lot of drawings. Even just one well done drawing can take a long time. But in sculpting, you really don't have a choice. You take that form and you have to turn it in space. And if it doesn't make sense, then it's not going to look good. And so you can see that, you look at it from some angles and it just doesn't look good. So you have to either choose to learn about those forms or try to basically fake how it's turning in space. But when you fake it, it's rarely convincing and rarely well done. Here I put the head in the wrong place, so I'm just gonna move that back, make that maybe the shoulder. And so I definitely recommend, if you're a sculptor, draw as well. If you're a draftsman, if you like drawing, then try sculpting. And they'll feed off of each other and help you get better. So there's no wasted study time, whether you're drawing or sculpting. All of that information is going to be used. It's going to come out somewhere. Let's see, and then he's got the portrait that he does so well. So anyway, let's see. Let's see what else. Okay, so I think I'll kind of start to wrap it up there. But again, the things I like about Bridgman is how he's able to break the figure, these complex forms, into more easily understandable forms. How he keeps the gesture while giving structure to the body. It looks almost like these parts of the figure could be sculpted out of blocks of stone. And that's one of the things that I really like as a sculptor. I love his drawings because it's just so sculptural, the way that he approaches the figure. So I definitely recommend checking it out, doing some drawings yourself. Were these the best drawings that I've done? No, they're just kind of, it's all practice. These are some ones that I did yesterday. I liked these a little bit better. I was hoping that I might get a little bit closer to this level, but everybody knows that when you're drawing without worrying about it, without the camera rolling, that you typically do a little bit better. And then once you turn the camera on, then the skill just drops instantly, but we did some fun, these are fun sketches and gives us just a little bit of information about the figure. And so I definitely recommend checking out the book. Oh, if you guys are interested in learning sculpture, if you'd like to learn figure sculpture, then there's a Figure Sculpting Fundamentals course, as well as the Portrait Sculpting course and new Hand Sculpting course. So any of those courses might be helpful if you're interested in representing the figure in traditional clay. So it's clay sculpting using traditional methods and everything that I wish I would have known. Check out those in the links in the description. There's also my ebooks that go over an artist's x-ray vision on the male figure and the female figure, and those are under $10, and you might find those interesting as well. So I hope you'll check those out. Stay creative, stay productive, and hopefully I'll see you again soon.